Welcome back to the channel where stories bite harder than reality. Today we're diving into a chilling tale of transformation, blood, and an ancient curse lurking deep within the woods. This is not just a werewolf story, it's a fight between man and monster, between love and rage. Get ready for the full story of Wolfman, a film where the real terror comes not from the beast, but what it takes to kill the one you love. The story begins with an article revealing that back in 1995, a hiker had gone missing in the remote Central Oregon mountains. Despite an extensive search, he was never found. Locals in the isolated community speculated that the hiker might have been infected by an animal-borne virus, which they called hill fever. However, native tribes had a different name for it, Malgundung Wan, meaning face of the wolf. Our story then shifts to a young boy named Blake, who lives with his strict father Grady in a rustic cottage near the wilderness. One morning, Blake joins his father for a hike near the mountain valley. Grady, a native of the area, teaches his son about the wildlife. During their walk, they spot a deer. Grady raises his gun to take a shot, but the deer runs off. Blake tries to track it from a different angle, but instead experiences something strange. A brief glimpse of a humanoid creature moving at superhuman speed. Though he tries to keep his eyes on it, the figure vanishes in the blink of an eye. Grady finds Blake and scolds him, but they're interrupted by eerie noises and the distinct presence of something nearby. They quickly take refuge in a nearby tree house. Suddenly, the shadowy figure appears again, growling and sniffing like a wild beast, climbing up toward them. Grady, alarmed, keeps his gun ready. He sees steam rising off the creature's body, an unnatural sight. Just as the creature is about to attack, the same deer from earlier appears and distracts it. The creature viciously mauls the deer and disappears into the woods. Grady, visibly shaken by the brutality, tells Blake it was just a bear, trying to conceal the truth. That night back home, Blake overhears Grady talking to a man named Dan. Grady admits that he saw the very same hiker, now transformed into something else. This revelation leaves Blake disturbed. The story then jumps 30 years into the future. Blake is now a grown man with a daughter named Ginger, whom he deeply loves. Ginger shares a strong bond with her father, while Blake's wife Charlotte remains preoccupied with work. Because of this, Blake has raised Ginger mostly on his own, becoming her closest companion. One evening, Charlotte returns home and hands Blake a file containing the deed to Grady's old cabin and a death certificate. The state has officially declared Grady dead after years of being missing. Though their marriage isn't broken, Blake and Charlotte's relationship is strained, distant. Over dinner, Blake reflects on his past, regretting that he abandoned his father and never reconnected. The next day, Blake visits Charlotte at her office, bringing lunch and suggesting that they take a trip to the cabin for the summer. He believes spending time together in the mountains might help rebuild their bond and reconnect as a family. Charlotte agrees. They soon set off for the woods, laughing and enjoying themselves, but lost track of the trail to the cabin. They meet a man named Derek at a nearby tree house. Derek introduces himself as Dan's son and claims he knows Blake. He informs them that the original path to the cabin is closed, but offers to show them an alternate route. Blake, Charlotte, and Ginger hop into Derek's truck. Charlotte is uneasy around Derek, especially after noticing his gun, but Blake assures her it's common in these parts. As they head deeper into the forest, Blake spots a humanoid figure again. Distracted, the truck swerves and crashes deep into the woods. Derek is thrown out of the vehicle, while Blake urges Charlotte and Ginger to climb to safety. Suddenly, the monstrous creature appears again, attacking the truck. Blake narrowly escapes, protected only by the glass window. He watches in horror as the beast brutally kills Derek and drags his body away. Blake rushes to help his family, and the three of them make their way through the dense forest until they find the old cabin. But just as they reach it, the creature appears again. They barely manage to get inside and lock the door. Blake comforts Ginger, who is terrified, assuring her that he will do whatever it takes to protect her, because that's his job as her father. She claims she can read minds, and whenever she gently places her hand on her father's head and says what he's thinking, he agrees with her, surprised and touched that she's always right. Ginger could read his thoughts, and it created an adorable and heartwarming moment. He loved his daughter deeply and believed in her abilities. After putting Ginger to bed, Blake steps outside where Charlotte asks him what that thing was. He replies that he doesn't know exactly, but he thinks it might have been some kind of animal, though what disturbed him most was that he saw it standing on two legs. He heads down to the basement and starts the generator, restoring the lights. Then, using his father Grady's old radio, he attempts to send out a distress signal. Suddenly, Blake feels extremely hungry and starts searching for something to eat. He finds some food and begins eating, but a strange thing happens. One of his teeth falls out. Charlotte quickly gives him first aid, and while tending to him, she notices a deep wound on his body. Blake brushes it off, saying it might be from the window glass, but Charlotte finds it suspicious. It doesn't look like a typical glass cut. Later that night, Charlotte heads to bed. Blake stays up and begins hammering nails into the door for security, but accidentally hits himself with the hammer. To his shock, he doesn't feel any pain. It's as if he suddenly developed superhuman strength. Curious and confused, he goes to the kitchen for water, but then hears footsteps in the other room. When he goes to check, he only finds a spider crawling inside the closet. But what's strange is that his hearing has become so sensitive that he could even hear the spider moving. As he steps outside again, he hears more footsteps. And then the creature reappears, grabbing his leg through the dog hole. Charlotte rushes in with a hammer, striking the creature's hand, forcing it to retreat. But now Blake's condition starts to deteriorate rapidly. He begins to vomit, feels dizzy, and soon collapses unconscious. When he wakes up, he sees Charlotte on the radio calling for help, explaining that her husband is sick, sicker than he even realizes, and that he might be changing. Blake tries to talk to her, but his words come out fragmented. Charlotte looks at him and is horrified. His face is no longer human. It's transforming into something monstrous. He loses control of his body, even urinating on himself in a trance-like state. Charlotte tries her best to help and takes him to his room. There, Blake notices his hair falling out. He's losing all his human traits. His vision changes, and he begins seeing Charlotte and the world around him in an entirely different way. Unable to speak anymore, he writes on a piece of paper that he's dying. Charlotte tries to comfort him, but Blake can no longer hear her. He has lost his hearing too. Suddenly, Ginger walks in and notices her father's hand bleeding profusely. When Charlotte checks, she sees that his hand is decaying. Bones and nerves are exposed, flesh rotting. Blake, now almost completely transformed, starts violently chewing on his hand. Charlotte is devastated. Outside, she sees Grady's old truck and finds the keys, attempting to get everyone out of the house. But the creature returns and attacks them. They manage to escape to the rooftop nursery, where the beast tries to climb and reach them. Afraid for Ginger, Blake leads the creature away, and they both vanish through a door. For a while, only growls and sounds of a violent struggle can be heard. Then Blake returns, more transformed than ever. Ginger runs to him, places her hand on his head and says, "I love you," and tells him she can still hear his thoughts, that her father still loves her. Blake begins vomiting violently, and out comes a bloodied finger. Not just any finger, it's the creature's finger. Now overwhelmed by aggression, he moves towards Charlotte as if to attack, but she stands her ground with love and courage. Something inside him holds back. That's when the creature bursts into the house, ready to kill Charlotte and Ginger. Blake, unable to speak, but with eyes full of purpose, blocks its path. A ferocious battle erupts. Blake and the monster go head-to-head. Charlotte tries stabbing it, but it has no effect. As the monster lunges at Charlotte and Ginger, Blake leaps between them and, with all his might, tears the creature's throat open, killing it once and for all. But as the creature dies, Blake notices something shocking. On its hand is a tattoo. It's his father's tattoo. This beast was none other than Grady, his father, who hadn't died years ago but had transformed into this monster. Realizing the horrifying truth, Blake stumbles out of the house. Ginger, confused, asks Charlotte, "What happened to Dad?" Charlotte replies, "Your grandfather, Grady, once disappeared during a hunting trip. Everyone thought he had died, but the truth is, he was infected, just like your father. And it was Grady who infected Blake." Ginger looks out with tearful eyes and softly says, "But I know, my dad, he still loves me, just like before." Charlotte tries to calm Ginger down, assuring her that she's with her and will make everything all right. Meanwhile, we see Blake has completely transformed into a creature, no longer human, but a beast. This is the face of the wolf, or more accurately, according to the movie's theme, the Wolfman. It turns out that there's something mysterious spreading in these woods. Anyone who is scratched or injured by the Wolfman becomes cursed and begins to transform as well. If you recall the hiker from the beginning, he was likely infected with this curse first. After that, he may have killed the previous Wolfman and taken on the role himself. Then perhaps Grady got scratched by him and eventually became the current Wolfman. Recently, after the truck accident, Grady, now the Wolfman, might have passed the curse to his son, Blake. So the Wolfman that haunts the woods now is none other than Blake himself. Later, Blake returns home, which terrifies Charlotte and Ginger, and they begin to run. But Blake approaches Ginger and tries to touch her gently. At that moment, Charlotte stabs him and runs away with Ginger. They hide inside a dark shed. The Wolfman enters as well. He can see them in the dark, but they can't see him. As he approaches, his foot gets caught in a bear trap, and the two women seize the moment to escape. Blake tears his foot off and chases them, leading to the site of the truck crash, where they discover Derek's mutilated body. Charlotte grabs his gun, knowing she might have to use it to kill her husband. They seek refuge in a treehouse, the same one where Blake used to hide as a child. Eventually, Blake arrives and faces them, but instead of attacking, he holds back. Ginger can almost read his mind. He doesn't want to hurt them anymore. He wants all of this to end. Charlotte, unable to shoot him, hesitates. Blake pretends to attack her, forcing her to pull the trigger. She finally shoots him, and with that, the curse dies along with him. Both women break down in tears, devastated. As they leave, they head to the place Blake had once promised to show them. A beautiful spot in the forest, one he used to visit as a child. And just like that, Wolfman comes to an end. So that was the story of the film. That was the complete story of Wolfman, a gripping tale of curses, transformation, and the power of family. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our latest videos. We'd love to hear from you. Do you prefer werewolves or vampires? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.